the biggest tournament on the planet is almost here. The PDC World Championship starts this upcoming Sunday. How excited are you for Dartsmouth season to begin?
We've had this question on the spreadsheet 8 years in a row now. And, the last few years I've said I don't think I'll ever be more excited than I was for the 2021 World Championships. And I'll say that again this year. I think that will remain the peak in level of excitement because of everything that happened in 2020. And to have the World Championships while I know you guys were going back under lockdown. We weren't back under lockdown, but the caseloads were exploding, and I certainly wasn't going out. Having the World Championships for those 3 weeks, especially such a high-quality tournament in the end, was a needed distraction, and I was more excited for it than I'd ever been before, which is saying something, and I don't think I'll ever match that. But I'm certainly very excited for this World Championships because it's been such an insane year in darts. And Paul Lim this past weekend over in the WDF is the least of it. You look at who has managed to win majors. It's been the year of the unheralded player, the year of the upset. Whether we're talking Mike Decker, whether we're talking Richie Edhouse, whether we're talking, on the European Tour, 2 titles from Martin Schindler. This year has seen players pop up, win big matches against the top players, and not just then fold and disappear, but go on and lift the title from there. And even the finalists this year, Jermaine Wadamena, Martin Lukeman, there's been just an endless just a litany of players who, if you had told me when the season began they were going to be in a major final, I certainly would want to know where you get your drugs from because mine clearly aren't strong enough. But in the end, that's what's happened. And it's been so fun to watch. And despite all that, it's not like the top players have entirely disappeared. Luke Humphries has won 2 ranking majors, including the biggest one over the course of the season in the World Match Play. Luke Littler has won the Premier League. He's won the Grand Slam. He's won the World Series final. It's not like these top players have entirely disappeared, but when they've been beaten in matches, the tournament has been thrown open, and the depth has allowed so many players to come through and win. And that has made it so fantastic. It makes this a tournament that I'm looking at it, and yes, and we'll come on to it the next question. Luke Littler and Luke Humphries are and should be the 2 heavy favorites, but I can go 18 players who I could make an argument for could win this title. So I'm really excited. Not as much as I was for the 2021 World Championship. That would be impossible. But for a reason that I haven't said before, at least for any of the previous 8 years that we've asked it, because of how many players that I think could win this title, I'm very excited.
Yeah, as you said at the start there, it's a question that we more often than not start our PDC World Championship preview show with, because this is by far the biggest tournament of the year. It's the one that grabs the attention of not just the darts fans, but a much wider audience. And we saw that case in point 12 months ago with Luke Littler's run to the final, which certainly cut through, didn't it? It captured the general public's attention, and I can't believe that was almost a year ago now. It feels to me anyway like it was a lot longer than a year, and I don't know if that's just because of how busy this year has been, and also really what Luke Littler's gone on to achieve in his debut season on the PDC Tour, winning 10 titles, including the Grand Slam, the Premier League, climbing up to world number 4. It's a rapid ascent that we may never see again, but I guess this being the second World Championships for Littler, the first time going back to Ali Pali, the venue, the tournament, where really it all changed for him, not just on the hockey, but off the hockey as well. It was a life-changing 2 or 3 weeks for him, going from a 16-year-old debutant that we'd heard of, a lot of our listeners knew about, but outside of that, few people knew him, and practically everyone knows who he is now, and he returns as the pre-tournament favourite this year. So yeah, that's an exciting subplot for me, I think, to see how Luke Littler follows up his first PDC World Championships, and do we see a repeat of that last World Final between Littler and the reigning champion Luke Humphries, which would be in the semi-finals. They're locked on a collision course to meet on the 2nd of January, but of course there's a lot of hurdles to overcome before then for both of them. But that's going to be fascinating to follow, I think, is both their progress and see if they make it to the Final Four. And okay, it's not going to be a final, but if they do meet in the semi-finals, I'd say there's a high chance that whatever the record for the viewing figures was from the final last year, that they break that with that semi-final going into next year. But beyond the two Lukes, you mentioned a lot of it there, that there's been a lot of exciting things that have happened this year, surprising major winners. We've seen players come back into the reckoning as well. Gary Anderson's had a great year, but it is the two Lukes that have dominated the headlines. But I think the last two stages of the World Championships, there's been something that has captured the public's attention. You go 2 years ago, it was Michael Smith and the greatest 9-darter ever. Last year, it was Luke Littler. Is there going to be something or someone again this year that has that same effect? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out.